after I retired, I remembered having these moments where I just kind of felt like I was worthless. Like what am I doing with my life? Like I need to have some purpose. I feel like I'm not accomplishing anything, or like I haven't. Like it was just kind of this, because I was so used to just being on television, to, striving for great things, and, being out there. And then when you kind of like sink back a little bit and you're not in that spotlight anymore, and you're not reaching millions of people every single week, like all of a sudden I felt like I need to do something with my life. That was like the words. I was like, I need to do something with my life. Even though I just came off of a great 27-year career that, was a lot to be proud of. So I had a little bit of that feeling the first year I retired, but it wasn't like I missed it. It's not like I wanted to go back. I just felt like I wanted to reach people. And so that kind of is what led into doing the podcast and having these other businesses, to be able to, I really loved the opportunity to be able to inspire people and have a microphone. I'm using that figuratively.
We've
To,
got one. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And literally now, to sort of have that microphone to the public, to be able to, you know, and I felt like if I didn't have that platform, I would lose it. But I'm like, wait a minute, there's lots of inspiring people that are not race car drivers. So that's kind of what led into the other businesses, and what they're rooted in, which is helping people think outside the box, grow and expand, question beliefs, have good conversations, and just really trying to teach people how powerful they are without anyone else's help, and what's within them is everything that they need.
Hmm.
So
Wow. Thank you
now
for
I do that in
sharing
other
that.
ways.
Yeah. And Ram Dass had this saying about like when people, quote unquote, let's just call it wake up, whatever you want to say, start to just realize all the other layers in consciousness that
By
you
the way,
start.
Ram Dass makes a lot more sense after you've been on a hero's dose of psilocybin. That's all
Oh
I'm saying.
yeah, yeah. It's like the thing of reading the Be Here Now book. It's like sometimes
You
you
should
have
go
to
back
have
and
that at the
reread
right
that.
moment, and there can be moments in your life where you read it, and you're like, this is interesting, and then later in life, you're like, oh my God, this is the answer that I've been looking for. I just didn't, I couldn't see it before.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but he would say like you start to realize there's only one game in town. Like there's really only one thing going on here, and it's essentially like our desire to return back to source, and we all sort of meander in different ways, and we have go-betweens. Whether it might be race car driving, it might be heroin, it might be Monday Night Football, it might be art, and it's not to say one's good or bad. It's just these are mechanisms for you to feel connected, feel alive in a sense, or feel like you have that true purpose that's even beyond like your vocational purpose or your worldly purpose. It's the purpose of consciousness. And it seems like I would hope that's sort of baked into being a human being. It's somewhat natural as we age, you would hope, but sometimes the soul sets up the lesson until you learn. And you don't have to, quote unquote, make the right choice. It's like the soul just set up the lesson again. Time doesn't really matter. Everybody graduates, is the idea, as my friend Court Johnson likes to say.
Oh my God, is that the one? Is that the clip in one of your songs where it's one of my
Yeah.
favorite songs of yours? But we are all students and we will all graduate.
Yeah, that's Court Johnson. He's my
Love that.
mentor in Santa Barbara. He's a mystic. He's a wild mystic guy, and he's the voice of the 10 laws. And he's
Which is
also
the name of this podcast, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I mean, he's that's the first song I wrote for with East Force Project before I even knew what it was, and so he and I are very connected. It feels like on a soul level of just this playful sort of. He's a court jester, and his name's Court, but got that energy of just like you can never quite pin him down, and he's never quite speaking exactly. He's a very like he's on different planes, and he's there's so many things he's said that have had a huge influence on my worldview, or I should say, otherworldly view.
Mm.
But that idea that all choices are valid and everyone graduates, yeah, it just takes like the pressure off in
Yeah.
a lot of ways. But nonetheless, we're here to make choices, and nonetheless, like we're here to have these experiences. But I think what I was trying to get at is like when you recognize that, okay, it's really more of a spiritual a game that's going on. Did that like it's an internal journey. Another Ram Dass thing he said is like, the real work is in the privacy of your own heart. And
Mm,
I just love that
mm,
phrase because it's true.
mhm,
Underneath all the layers, even the
mhm.
external things come back to the privacy of your own heart. That's the real work because you can't get away from only the truth of that experience. So
So true.
here's my question. You mirror that up against the desire to be in contact with lots of people and the influence, which is beautiful to have the feeling of service, but celebrity in itself can be a tricky game because it's very powerful in its senses of desire and the fuel it can give you and all the things that are come your way, but it also can be a bit of a trap in certain ways.
Mm.
But it also has these benefits. So I'm curious, like, what do you think are the greatest pitfalls or
Oh.
blind spots of celebrity now that you've been in it for a while, especially
Mm,
in relationship to your
mm,
real personal development?
mm. Man, I was thinking of all the good stuff, meaning like,
Those are obvious. Yeah.
reservations at restaurants, tickets to anything. Um, let's see. In the area of growth, like what does celebrity hold me back on? Um, I think having a being able to be really vulnerable. Like it's almost like I was explaining this just the other day because I've like very much been I have a lot of masculine energy naturally, and then I cultivated even more of that. And it was almost like to be in that role, I had to, and to be in the role of celebrity, I think to a large degree, no matter who you are, there's like a control, there's an assertiveness, there's a confidence, there's a decision making, there's a masculinity to it, there's a go and get. Not a lot of allowing. And I realized that because I can get into those moods again and I get much shorter, much quicker, much less patient, all kinds of things. And I realized I lived there because I was always working. Every weekend was being the boss. Every
Identify.
weekend,
Yeah.
yeah, like I was in that role, almost like a role. And and so takes a lot of practice, and I still have to try really hard to like sit back and relax and not take charge. So I think I said so masculinity I think is something that kind of gets pulled out of you a lot with celebrity or with being popular.
Mm.
And then vulnerability is another thing I said because you're just kind of always on guard. You go out in public and you just am. I literally don't go in public without thinking that people recognize me. And I'm not thinking about it. Like if somebody says my name, I'm like, oh, hey, like, cause I'm not thinking about it, but I'm so practiced in going in public and imagining that everything that I'm doing is available for someone to talk about.
Well, that's a different lens, right? Because like the average person does not have that thought.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's going to change your sense of reality
Yeah.
in a big way.
Yeah. So I think that's another thing too, is just that ability to just kind of totally be yourself and not be wondering what someone thinks or what someone's judging or what, any of that stuff or what they might want from you. That's another one is like you usually just kind of think that people want something from you. So even when it comes to just like being friendly and casual and talking to somebody, I don't like to do it that much because in my mind, they don't know. I know how to end a conversation really well. I'm great at it. I've got a lot of practice, but they don't. And then they might want something. And then, like, I don't like to disappoint people. So I'd rather just not put myself in that position. So I feel like it kind of like tempers a little bit of that super outward, like friendliness. Oh, hi, how are you? Oh gosh, great. Where are you? Like, I don't want you to have my phone number because I don't know what you want to do with that. I don't know what your intentions are. And so it kind of sort of tempers that a bit. I'd say.
I'm gonna push a little further here. I
Okay.
hear that, and that sounds like uh, that changes like your experience in the world externally. But
Mhm, mhm.
let's go internally a little more. I'm curious
Okay.
about how that changes how you feel and your perception of being in the world. Like, we could use
Mhm,
that example, like
mhm,
being known externally. How does that affect your internal sense of just being Danica, moving through life in this journey as the individual soul?
mm. I think it's always a journey to know who you are, but I think it might make it even worse because, like, I've also explained to people that sometimes people are tell me I'm a little quiet, and there's kind of two me's. There's the me that if I'm stepping into a situation with people and I'm there as Danica Patrick, the race car driver, say it's an appearance of some kind, a dinner with people that I'm supposed that I'm like booked for, whatever it is, whatever environment it is where I am Danica Patrick, the race car driver. I am not shy. I am assertive. I am like holding court. I am telling stories. I am all those things. It's still me, but it's just like just that part of me. Like I have a certain energy and mood. But then when I'm not me, I'm actually quiet because I don't have to do anything. And so what I've realized is I observe people and I don't know if this is true. I'm who knows, maybe this will change in time when I learn more, but it feels like what I'm doing is waiting to see if the words match up with their energy and to see how in truth they are, to see if they're telling the truth, to see if what they're presenting resonates with the energy that I'm getting off of them. And then I decide who I want to talk to because I don't want to talk to somebody who's super in their ego and that is, very narcissistic outwardly, or like I will also, since I tell the truth, I'll also be really honest and I'll just go there and I'll just call
It
them
seems
out.
like what
I'll
you're
just,
what you're yearning for is like the opposite of celebrity. It's like authenticity and presence.
yeah, yes,
No
very,
agenda. It's like you said, what you're looking for, it seems you're scanning for
yeah,
is everything that's the antithesis.
yeah.